All right, welcome to episode 224 of the Artcasters. We're getting up there in age. I say that like every time now. So we're kind of all sort of. I think we're all in. It has Arizona done the thing too, like the kind of self quarantine thing where you guys have to.
Oh yeah, we're shut down. All non-essential. Yeah, we're totally shut down.
Okay, and then Chicago's and
yeah, it's a little different. Yeah. Chicago's pretty much shut down. We're in central Illinois, and it's like they're trying to shut things down, but people are people.
Yeah, we have that too. I mean, we're officially shut down, but that doesn't mean like I saw a weird thing. I couldn't figure out what was going on, but I was walking my dog, and I hear all these people. What the hell is going on? So I kind of walked through this neighborhood. Well, first I saw all these cars lined up. I'm like, what is going on? And these cars are like packed. And so I go and I hear this, all this noise and stuff. So as I go around the corner, it looks like they're having a kid's birthday party. But for the most part, people were all staying in their cars. I saw a few people like hugging in the yard. But it seemed like every family got in their cars and maybe they were just staying there and driving by and wishing this kid a happy birthday. I don't know. I couldn't figure out. And I didn't want to just like stick around and find out. But it looked like they were trying to do social distancing, but people weren't totally obeying. But
yeah,
it's got to be hard for a kid. But I don't know. I mean, everyone's got to handle it differently. But if I had a kid that young and it was their birthday, I'd say, look, we'll do something real small right now. And then later, after this is over, we'll have a big party and you get 2 birthdays. I mean, what kid's going to argue with that? But I don't know,
Yeah.
But we kind of skipped our intros and everything.
My mic and headphones were actually mute, so I don't even. Are we live?
All right. Well, are your headphones working now?
They're working now.
Okay,
yeah.
Sweet. All right. Well, let's go through it then. So you're on my channel. So if you guys haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit that bell so you get notification when we're about to go live. And other than that, you can read my comic about faith and mental illness, like a very small snippet of it at quarterlystories.com, and joshuakemble.com will take you to like illustrations and stuff like that. Scott, where can everybody find your work?
You can find me at circworks.com. Also, right now, that one thing I've been talking about is my Patreon. Here we go. So I'm starting to do this thing where actually I just did one today where I'm calling it the Mad Creator Quarren Stream. And it's basically open to all patrons, and it's just a chance. It's like a live stream, but it's a little up close and personal. And before it was just for like the higher tiers, but I open it up to everyone. It's a patron, so even if you back at like $2 or whatever, you can get in and talk with me and the other patrons. And it's cool because it's like it's only broadcast. I only put it up on Patreon. So I was even talking about some behind the scenes stuff, some projects and things that I'm working on that I haven't totally made public. So it's kind of a cool thing. Frank was in there, another Patreon, Cameron, Corey was in there. So yeah, it was kind of cool. So anyway, that's open to everyone, every patron, and also I did make a video live on there for everyone to see, even if you're not a patron. It'll probably go hand in hand with what we're talking about today, but it's just kind of working from home. We're all in this weird situation. I've worked at home, for a while, so I've got some experience with that. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go there and you can check that out. And that one is, like I said, that's not behind a paywall or anything. You can just go to Patreon and not have to back anything, and you can see that one. So that's kind of what I'm talking about right now.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Cool. And then our special guest tonight is a frequent guest of the show, a friend of the show, friend of Scott and mine, and a cartoonist and illustrator, Mike Emeritz. And so, Mike, where can everybody find your stuff?
How's it going, everybody? Well, my website's up. That would be cystefinecomplex.com. I wrote it down this time because I know it's like hard. There we go.
We slept on that. We should have put that. Did you put that in there? I'm still promoting my thing. I got to get rid of that.
There you go. You can type it out.
All right.
Well, that's like where all my work is. It's pretty much a portfolio site right now, or kind of portfolio in progress. But I am, if I can get my stuff together, I'm trying to get some of my comics up on that site now. So like I've done a lot of like little strips. I've done a couple like little shorts and stuff for the books, and not everything, but the stuff that I'm most proud of from the last few years. I'm trying to finally get up there so that people could actually read it. But another place would be my old website would be spacecatcomics.com, because that's where my store is right now, and I could really use some sales. So yeah, check that out. And I got some cool prints, actually. I'm really proud of them.
Did you see the thumbnail I did with your?
Yes, those are the ones, actually.
Yeah. So if you see the thumbnail, those are some cool prints. I mean, I was really impressed, if nothing else, by the color. The color looked great on those.
Color was fun. I tried some new kind of stuff with that, and I think I'm going to stick with that for my comic too.
Yeah,
it's surprisingly quick and easy to do it that way too. But
definitely check out Mike's site, because those are some cool kind of fan art prints and stuff. So.
Don't go to my Facebook unless you want constant updates about washing your hands and political stuff. Just stay away from there for now.
Well, they might have to back out, because we might be talking about some of that stuff today. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So like part of why we thought it would be cool to kind of have you on and also just kind of discuss it is like with the whole, I think our local governments are all kind of recommending we all stay at home. Mm-hmm. I know like in California, it's like an ordinance. So like you could literally get a fine if you don't. And then even in my my own local district, like in Lancaster, like we were the first in California, like to require wearing face masks when you go outside.
Oh, wow.
So you kind of feel like a bit of a thug, like walking out around town with like your face covered and stuff. But it's been an interesting challenge, and it's definitely created some interesting kind of dilemmas for like artists. I know for me, like I had a very brief period of having a financial hit from it at my day job, and like luckily that's kind of curved and back to normal, which is good. But I also know like just navigating it, and even now like navigating, like I'm running like a remote team, whereas it's an in-house team that now I'm running remote. Mm-hmm. And then also just kind of navigating this whole sort of new scenario. And I know like for freelancers, everybody's getting hit economically with this. So that means less people, I'm just guessing, but it's like, I would estimate that probably means less people are paying for things that aren't like vital essentials like food or rent or like utilities. And so when everybody's like kind of tightening their belt, and we're also similarly tightening our belts and trying to figure out like how we navigate this scenario. I just think it's a good topic to kind of bring up, just to kind of commiserate and also maybe help other people out there who are probably going through similar struggles. Because we have so many people who listen to Artcasters that are, freelancers and illustrators and cartoonists themselves.
For sure.
And
I was sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, and I kind of posted this in the description when I put out the newsletter, but I think, obviously different people handle this different ways, or they approach it different ways. And I've kind of been more or less like, well, this is the perfect time to get work done and do more work and stuff. But then I was reading through some of Mike's posts, and it kind of gave me a little bit of a, made me reevaluate, because sometimes I think what's kind of, what's right for me might work for everyone, and that's probably not the case. So I think Mike has a different opinion on that type of thing. So it's really, I think when we do this show, I think we all handle this differently, or we all have different approaches.
Yeah.
And then I think you just need to figure out what kind of person you are and what's going to work best for you, as far as, because me saying, oh yeah, you got all this time, put out work and stuff, and it's not always that easy. I know a lot of people deal, especially now with all this stuff going on with depression and things like that. So that's probably not always the best advice. So just know yourself and kind of know what's going to work for you. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. So
yeah, and I think I think something for people also to consider too when it comes to like depression or issues like that is like, the one thing most mental illnesses have in common is like trying to get you isolated and alone. And then we have this thing that's literally forcing people to be isolated and alone. So it's a real difficult thing to navigate, I think, considering that too, Yeah. Sorry. It also has done wonders for bedtime with children, because my son, like, because he doesn't have like a school schedule, it's like he's thrown out his schedule entirely. So bedtime has become a challenge for parents out there. Parents of young children, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think it is in the play. I've seen like people posting like all these things where they're trying to work and the kids just doing crazy stuff. So I mean, it's, like even funny. During the day, I'm now that things are back, but it's remote. It's like I need to be available like a doctor, almost like on call from like 8 to 5, and it's like so I literally am like held hostage, like kind of close to my computer for that time for the whole day. And my son has a really hard time understanding him at work because he's, it's like it looks like dad's here to hang out and play, and I'm like, I literally have to like do this drawing stuff. It's hard to navigate. It makes me respect my wife, because she does a lot of freelance and has for a while been doing like a little bit of freelance as well as taking care of him during the day, and it's like I don't know how. Yeah, superpower.
Yeah. So how are you guys each approaching it? It's like I think we kind of talked about this a little bit last Artcasters, but I still think it's worth touching on. Like each individually, like how are you affected by the current situation, and then like how are you kind of navigating and kind of shifting through it? Because it's definitely one of those scenarios where, like, if you more of the same may not work. And so, yeah. So how are you guys approaching it? How has it affected you, and how are you approaching it?
Man, you mind if I go first, I guess?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
This thing has like rocked my world like really bad. Mostly just because it hits really close to home. I have a lot of good friends and close family members that are nurses. That's just what they decided to do. And I've even got older cousins who are, the mothers of those cousins who have come out of retirement to go and work. So, I mean, since this has started and you hear all the news and stuff, I mean, 24/7, I'm just like fighting off panic attacks, and I worry about my mom, I worry about my dad. They're both like in that group of people that are most susceptible. My mom's like, she does oxygen sometimes at night. She's got COPD. My dad has one lung. So it's been tense, but at the same time, it's like my buddy Creed, which you guys know too. He's a fan of the show, a longtime friend of all of us. He put it in a good way. It's like you're going through grief almost, like every day, just kind of dealing with those different stages, So for me, I would say the first 2 weeks was just grief, just pure grief, just every day trying to stave off panic attacks and stuff, and not for no reason. Anybody that's been following my Facebook at all, like we had some crap go down in our place. Like as soon as this thing happened and everybody lost their jobs, we don't live in the best neighborhood. It's not the worst, but we don't live in the best. Well, they had like this all-night party that in this particular building where we have a lot of crime going on. Like there's been shots fired and stuff over there in the past. So when there's a party over there, it's like, whoa, okay, let's be safe. But this time it actually spilled over into our world. So a big group of them way late at night after we'd already tried to call the cops a bunch of times. This was like 1:30 in the morning. At this point, it was like, look, I mean, can you guys please, like, it's disturbing the peace at this point. Just do your job. Come on. But they wouldn't do it. The cops were afraid because of COVID. They didn't want to catch it, so they don't want to get near anybody. And so we called them in a panic because a huge group of these people from this party just rushed our door. I live in an apartment building, so it wasn't like our house door, but it was the building door, which is very not secure. It's held up by like maybe a 1x2 and a screw, so it wouldn't take much. And like we called the cops because, you know, hey, they're actually banging on our door now. This is the problem. And so I actually had to like go down and confront them to try to stop it because they were going to get in. And that shook me up too, because, you know, just the virus is its own thing. And there's a lot of concerns to have about that. But, you know, if you think about it rationally, there's some clear things that we could do to, you know, lessen our chances of catching that and giving it to other people. That's fine. But now I'm worrying about like that fallout kind of crap that you don't want to have. You know, like really. So that really did me in for quite a while, because you're talking about very basic kind of stuff like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And mental safety was in jeopardy. So, you know, I'm looking into stuff I've never looked into before, like getting a firearm license and stuff and all this crazy crap, which, you know, is futile at this point anyways. They've banned the sales of all that stuff, and it's just, but you know, all that aside, even despite all that, it's sort of like a nice intro to what we're talking about, because whatever happens in life, doesn't matter if it's a global pandemic or if it's some, you know, tragedy that's happened in your own life, you have to find a way to move on. You have, there's just no choice. It's either, you know, find a way to adapt and live in this new normal, or what are you going to do? Freak out the whole day? Just put everything off and not do anything? So it's taken a while, but very slowly, I've been kind of starting to get back into at least a mindset where I'm going to get working again. And today, for the first time since this whole thing happened, I actually started creating some kind of art, which was, you know, a little bit of thanks to Gaz for having the time to jump into a hangout today. Because I think if I wasn't hanging out with some other like art pals this last week, I don't know if I would have had the attention span to sit and do any drawing or anything like that. But you know, the mindset's there. I know what I got to do. I got plenty of ideas, and I got a good game plan for how to navigate this and change and adapt. And now I'm just kind of, you know, trying to encourage that old brain of mine to catch up with the plan here.
Yeah, Gaz is great for that. He's like he will
so
kick
positive.
you in
It's
he will give you a kick in the ass too.
But he's kind of like, that's what I was talking about. That advice that I've been giving is kind of the advice that Gaz gave me. So so if it didn't like, if it actually helped, that's good, because
I mean, I think it was just his presence as a friend to talk.
Yeah,
we've talked before, and he's just like, well, why don't you do this? Well, what about that? How about you start on this? And I'm like, stop it! I just want to, you know, sit and do nothing. But yeah, he's hardcore. I was cracking up when I talked to him the other day, because, you know, he talks some smack sometimes about, you know, like, I don't understand how people can't do the 100 days or whatever. And I'm like, oh, you know, we'll see. You know, now you got a kid, we got the pandemic going on. Nope, he's still getting pages done. I mean, nothing can stop him.
Well, why isn't he posting about this? Or maybe he is on Facebook and I just don't watch
maybe
Facebook. But
I think he's just busy doing it at this
point.
Good, and I was gonna say, like, when you do have a kid that age, it's like pretty much, if you're making art time, you're not gonna have social media time on top of that art time.
No,
like there is no time. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. It's motivating, you know, because you want to get to that point again for sure. But yeah, it's you know, it's interesting. So not handling it well, but you know, you deal with depression, so maybe you understand where I'm coming from. I've talked to a couple people that say the similar thing, where it's almost like you're of two minds sometime. Like you know what you need to do. There's this other part of you that's not allowing you to do it, and it's just getting that in sync. That's where I'm at right now, and the chain has just finally, you know, hit the gear, and so now I just gotta, you know, ride the bike again.
I like it. I always view it as like a cloud, you know, where it's like I even in my comic like depicted it as a cloud, like this just dark cloud, because I just feel like it is kind of like that. It's weird, and it's definitely not you. It's like this dark, annoying friend who just shows up all the time. But I think part of it is just like, I think what you're talking about is great. Like, I know for me, I haven't had a confrontation with a neighbor like that in a long time. When my wife and I used to live in some sketchier neighborhoods, I had multiple moments like that. So I instantly empathize, because I know exactly kind of that type of scenario, and also just that crazy like fight or flight that kicks in.
Yeah.
And that does take a while to wear off. So that's
It doesn't
a
let
tense
go.
situation.
Yeah.
But I do know, just like on a milder note, like I have a literary agent now who's like put stuff out, and there are 5 publishers that are looking
That's awesome.
at my thing. One of them got back today and kind of was like, not like they actually, to quote them, I think I'll kind of quote them off, but they were basically like, the art's brilliant, the story's brilliant, it's just way too dark for us to like launch a graphic novel series on. Does he have other stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, yes, I do. And I sent that. So that's off.
Cool.
But, the anxiety, like there's a brief bit of anxiety that like, I think anytime you put something out there like that, and to me, like this is one of my greatest causes of anxiety, even though it's on a minor note, where when things are pending and you just don't know, you don't have an answer.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to kind of like keep the boat moving forward because I hate the non-answer. Like I can deal with a no, I can deal with a yes. The waiting and not knowing what I have to deal with. And I think that's it's like a microcosm of what we're all kind of going through right now.
Yeah.
It's the waiting and not knowing
that uncertainty.
Yeah, the uncertainty causes a lot of pressure. So, but like what I have been doing in the interim is like I just actually did the math. I was like, after the literary agent and stuff like that, it's actually weird, but I feel more anxiety than pre-literary agent because now it's close to possible. So it's like being at the finish line and I can just see it, but it could still fail.
Yeah.
But if it fails, it'll feel a lot more real as a failure,
Yeah.
But the weird thing is like I realized like I had a day or so of like just kind of getting overwhelmed with it and being like, I just can't, I have to just do my day job and then like take care of my kid and that's it. And then I realized like, well, in the interim, like, what am I getting? Like, here's the thing, like best case scenario happens, I will have a publishing deal. And then I'm in a situation where I'm going to need time and I'm going to need to crank out the second book a lot faster than the first because it's a 2-book deal we're going for. So best case scenario, I'm screwed if I don't work on it now. Worst case scenario, I'm screwed if I don't work on it now because I still need that second book out. So even if I kickstart it or whatever. So I realized like the best path forward was for me to actually start carving away at work. And it's very similar to like when the bottom dropped out and I thought like, for a couple of weeks, like we took a really big hit in our finances. And for us, like I think for most creatives, honestly, I shouldn't just say for us, because I think for most creatives, we're not like pouring in wealth. So it's like we're week to week,
Yeah.
And so
commission to commission.
Like, yeah. So like taking, a hit that's like, half your income in like a week is heavy.
Yeah.
So for us, it was really hard to navigate. But during that time, same thing. I panicked. I freaked out. I realized it's out of my control. And then I had to kind of try to focus on like, well, what kind of swimming can I do right now? Because I'm in the ocean, and so if I just freak out, I'm just going to sink. So what direction looks the best?
Yeah.
And that's where the literary agent and all that other stuff came from. So it's like, I do think there's an advantage to kind of trying to be less, at least for myself. Like I know that a lot of my own anxieties or mental issues come from control, which is why I like comics so much, because it's a world you have 100% control over.
Yeah.
And so like being in a scenario where there's like absolutely no control it can be frightening. And I think that's where it's just like, you got to target those things you can reach toward, because otherwise, it's like, and just do the math of like, it's either you do that or you lose progress towards whatever it is. And I was like, I'd rather be gaining ground, even if it's gaining ground to a failure.
Right.
than like losing ground to non-movement. I don't know. I'm rambling, but that's been my own kind of like weird navigating the scenario. But I do feel really fortunate because I don't think I got hit as hard as a lot of people. I have good friends who, had really sweet jobs as like Imagineers for Disney, and Disney's doing furloughs and like, so it's which is like really rough because, for those people, like that's the dream job. Like they've reached the peak of where they wanted to be. And then it's just like,
I got a buddy who just got a job at Marvel as a colorist like 3 days before this happened. And then it was like a couple days after that, they announced they were cutting a third of their titles or whatever. And his was one of them. It was like he barely got to enjoy that for a week. Yeah. I mean, he's not like fired or anything. It was a gig kind of thing. They're still going to call him if they can, but that's, man.
But I mean, anybody familiar with the industry knows the risk in that conversation of hearing, "Oh, we'll call you," and you're like, "Sure, you'll call." Yeah, I believe you. Yeah, when everything ramps up, it's a tough one,
Yeah, I'm hoping for the best for him. He worked really hard to do that, but
and in reality, if things kind of kick up again, I think that is a heavy possibility. I mean, I think like if I can think of a positive of like what's happening with the comics industry is like it might force the comics industry to face the reality that Diamond is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot, actually. I mean, I know you guys probably know by now, like my parents had a shop when I was a kid, and I remember when the Diamond wasn't the only distributor. But I saw all the signs of what was to come. Even when I was young, my dad used to get so pissed leaving from Diamond, because there was a period of time where they started saying, "Oh, well, we're going to offer, a discount for distributing through us if you give us exclusivity." So, Marvel would release a bunch of books, but then maybe this special foil, cable #1 or whatever would be Diamond exclusive. And then the shops would have to buy X amount to just get that one book. And I mean, just
no returns.
Manipulative little things. And we don't need that. We're such a small industry anyways, man. Like we need to figure something else out. I don't know what that solution is, but I think this definitely puts that into perspective, that this was not the best way to handle it. We need at least more distributors or maybe just different options. I don't know. That could be a whole other episode, to be honest, but it's not really on the topic, but yeah, that's a good example. This is a good time for you to kind of look at maybe not even things as big as an industry, but maybe in your own personal life, you can do things that you could do differently. Like I've noticed that to spin it on a positive for myself. Like this situation has made me look at, I mean, even outside of comics, just big life kind of things that I would handle differently. And given the chance and the opportunity, I'm going to. And right now I'm in the mindset of, well, how do I do that now? In this new normal, how do I start doing that right now? And especially in terms of my creative output and the kind of ways that I approach things. I have a very methodical way of doing things, and that's kind of what makes my stuff. But I see areas where I can pull back on that, and it's a matter of kind of self-awareness where that you're at a certain point where, hey, even if I don't do the absolute best that I know I can do, it's probably good enough, and that I need to start recognizing that more and jumping on the ball more, because, and it's I'm not trying to be facetious, but you never know when a global pandemic will show up and like who thought we would live in this kind of reality, but apparently it's possible, and it's devastating, and I would like to be more prepared should that happen.
I mean, I was expecting there to be another recession soon, but I didn't know it was going to be. I didn't know this is like, but but because I mean, I guess one of the things is that everyone in the world is going through this right now. I mean, obviously there's different degrees, and some people are way worse off than others, but it's basically affecting everyone. So
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying too, about like like almost systematic thought. Like my management style is that. Like as an art director, I'm a systematic manager.
Mhm.
And the biggest weakness that systematic managers have is crisis. Because systematic, strategy and thinking is like kind of building systems and structures so that there are no problems.
Right.
Like so you're literally, planning everything, creating protocols and all these things so that everything runs smoothly.
Mhm.
And so this has been for me a wake-up call in my management style and also my creative output style, where it's like the systematic doesn't always work. Like sometimes you really do have to be able to shift gears very quickly and kind of just go into power leadership, like where you're just like, boom, okay, I'm making decisions, like because the structure is just not there.
Yeah.
And that's I think, Mike, I think you and I are similar in that sense, where it's like that's frightening, but it's also necessary, and I think that's cool. I don't know. I do think like scenarios like this are a good opportunity for people to kind of rise, because it's literally times like this where good people show their goodness.
Yeah.
Like, like you're not a good person if you're on like a calm ship and you're really well behaved. But it's like if you're in a storm and you like do your best and work hard and like kind of remain calm and like help your brother and sister or whatever, it's like that's the time where it really kind of reveals like what's going on. And like I think it's
definitely a test,
a good opportunity. Yeah, it's I mean, it's terrifying, but it's also a good opportunity to kind of like test your grit, as a person.
Yeah, totally.
So okay, let's talk like industry though. Like, so how are you navigating like what are your like, and I want to hear from Scott and you, because you guys are both kind of like freelance and kind of running based on clients, commissions, or like personal art that's like, being sold for passive income, whatever way you're strategizing. How are you kind of navigating with the shifts in that sense in clients? And by the way, doesn't need to be a solution, just a troubleshooting kind of conversation where it's like, what's kind of the current landscape, and then like how are you kind of approaching it? I think Scott touched on it a little bit last Artcasters, so I want to hear more from Mike, but still I think Scott, you can chime in too.
Well, I'm still kind of figuring it out. The first couple weeks in, I had some commissions lined up. I'm not really advertising that I'm doing them right now, but I am taking them, and some people have seen that I've done some stuff, so I've gotten some requests, and all of them had to get refunded. Two of them just didn't want anything sent through the mail, and one of them was like just unsure about financial, the future. And luckily, I hadn't started on any of them, and I felt that was, fair. I didn't want to.
Yeah,
that
but
makes
it's
sense
still a hit.
But it still sucks, and it's not like I was depending on it, but my business is, that's the thing that's gotten hit the most. I've got to keep it together a little bit. I've been working really hard for 5 years now to try to build up my art business, and I just drained my bank account to get some stuff that we really needed to get because of these, emergency situations. And that really sucks. It's fine. It's fine. Like I said, it wasn't supporting us or anything like that, but it was building up to where, I was going to be able to make a small investment in myself that might have helped to support us, but these are just, bumps in the road. It's not the end of the journey. And especially now, it's like the landscape's totally changed. My mind has been turning about how this is going to affect the industry, and I'm happy, I guess, in a way, in a bittersweet kind of way, that I sort of foresaw some of this coming. Like when we first started getting into this, the first thing I thought was, what if they shut down, places like Marvel, or they shut down the printers, or they shut down this or that? And like, I had these thoughts, and at the time I was just being paranoid, but now I see that that was foresight, and that is happening. That's reality. So I'm thinking a lot about that. I'm also thinking in general about content. To get really personal about my story, I got some problems with my story now because it's too close to home. There is a pandemic element in my story, and a lot of what drives it is a very critical message and a critical look at humanity and society and kind of where we're at right now. And given the state of the world, I don't want to make that kind of scathing statement anymore. Like, I wouldn't want to read my book. Like, we get it. Like, it just happened. We get it. So I have to rewrite, and that's fine too. So, but that kind of ties into that whole idea of reevaluating my approach. So instead of being so methodical and looking at this and going, okay, well, now I got to rewrite my whole outline. Now I got to rewrite all of this and spend all this time. I don't know how much time I have anymore. This is giving me a whole new outlook on how to approach these things. So, I'm gonna do my best and try to just start issue 1. Take what I know now and apply it to the outline that I have. Like, I know what I would change. I don't need to spend a month to rewrite. Just do it with that new state of mind. Do it with that new outlook and that new message. So that's one of the things I'm doing. As far as my other side of my business with prints and commissions, I don't know. That was a little scary when that happened, because that's made me very hesitant to even try to get commissions now, because I don't know who would take them, and if that's going to happen again. You had said before earlier too, do people even have money for this kind of thing? Right now, people are wondering if the government's actually going to send them a check or not to get food. And I understand that. I've canceled some subscriptions and stuff too. And like, it's just the reality that we're in. But there's also, on the positive side, there are people that have money to buy these things. There are people that are going to be supporting artists.
Mike, also as an encouragement in that, like, so another thing that's happening is you also have some people who have some money they're sitting on, who are now at home,
right? Yeah,
facing their reality. Like, they're not able to like go to their job and then come home and like watch TV and just zone out. Like, they're kind of facing the reality, and so they're having creative impulses, and wanting to hire artists to kind of help their vision come to reality. And I can vouch for this, because it's like, like my wife has picked up some kids book jobs in this time, and I think it's because some people facing this reality are like, oh, like I always wanted to write a kids book. Right. Now I got time. I got the resources to write a kids book, so let's make the kids book happen. And so, like, I would say, like, just as an encouragement, it's like, definitely push the commissions, because why not? I mean, all artists right now are pushing the commissions.
True.
And people get it, right? People get it, because it's like, it is a tough time. So like, you might actually end up with better results. The other thing that's great is if people get into a commission now, they know the scenario. Whereas if they got into it before this,
true, more likely to stick to it.
Yeah.
But you're
I'm glad
right.
you mentioned,
People have reached out to me too to offer me different jobs. Ironically, I'm on the fence about whether to take this one or not, because if I do, it's a huge commitment, and I don't know if that's a smart thing for me to do, to take something that's going to go so far into the future. I'd rather do little things, because even though they might have the money now, that's something that might suddenly. But I don't want to get that negative. But it was for a storyboarding gig, which I used to do, and I really don't want to do. But again, I can't look a gift horse in a mouth. That's kind of a very fortunate thing to even get a job offer right now.
They usually pay pretty well if it's the same
they can. And that's like, that was the thing that sort of blindsided me. So if I have one little like tip, I guess, for anybody out there that might be listening, think of whatever possible gig you might want and start thinking about your rates and get that ready for when people maybe ask you, because not having it, then you end up in the situation where I'm in, where it's like, well, I did that like 7 years ago. The rates have
Mike, we can talk. I did it like I did it like 4 years ago, and I have a couple
Okay.
buddies who do it currently,
Okay.
so I can give you.
What,
I recommend-
storyboarding?
Helpful.
Storyboarding?
after.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I used
But-
to do storyboarding too. Yeah.
Okay.
but I got some tips. Then I definitely, if you can, do day rate, not hourly.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, the last
um,
time I did it, I did per panel actually per.
No, day rate. Day
Okay.
rates.
Okay.
But I don't know what well, we'll talk after.
Okay.
But yeah, that's good. That's good. That can be fun. I did a couple commercials and stuff, and they were fun. I always felt like I was cheating whenever I did storyboarding.
I guess it's
Because
so
I'd be like,
much-
"Am I done? Like, I want to
Yeah.
finish."
Because it could be like super rough, and it's like, no, it's perfect. Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
But it is
biggest,
tough, like in the sense of like you have to kind of consider where the camera's at.
True.
And so like whereas in like in like a comic, like your camera can be anywhere and you don't have to worry about a certain angle of a shot like exposing the whole camera crew.
Right.
Like,
And it doesn't have to even be possible.
yeah, exactly. But some of the premises from storyboarding are like super advantageous for comic, storytelling. Like I always feel like cartoonists could benefit from doing a little bit of storyboarding and learning like line of action. Because I see people not cross the line and then switch shots in comics all the time. And you feel like time passed. And it's like, wait, time didn't pass? You're telling me time passed. And yet it didn't pass. Anyhow, yeah. Rambling. But yeah.
They're similar, but definitely different. Yeah.
Yeah, so like that is fascinating though. And I'm sorry to hear like people dropped out, but like I said, I do think there's got to be a huge percentage of people who are like I've seen on Facebook. Like this is something that fascinates me as a creative, and I'm sure it fascinates all of us. But it's like those friends who are just like, I'm so bored. What should I binge watch?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I can't do that.
how you have all the time? You have the time. Like it's I don't know. That's a fascinating one. But I'm like, some of those people who are posting that kind of thing have resources and might be looking for entertainment.
Yeah. And if people are in a job or a position that isn't affected by this, and there are some of those that are either essential or whatever, or they're just, in a different position. A lot of what they spent money on for entertainment, they can't do anymore. They can't go out to the movies. They can't go out to eat. They can't do all that. So some people may be in a position where they actually have more money, and they may be looking for other kinds of entertainment, or or they could just be staring at their blank walls and like, these walls could use some artwork or something,
Yeah, or people that are still working from home too. Like they're nothing's changed other than that they're working from home. There's some people like that too. Yeah.
I mean, I've joined that club recently, and it's fascinating. And I can say it's not like an office job, where it's like when you catch up, you're like finding stuff to do. It's like when you catch up, you're just caught up, and then it's like, which is really fun because it's like I can just pick up my guitar, and I'm like, I can't do that at but
It's awesome.
but it's but I do agree. Like, you have a lot of people who are actually telecommuting and stuff too. So I mean, I'm not trying to downplay kind of where things are at, because there's
you're trying to find a silver lining.
Yeah, there is some serious stuff happening, and I think people who aren't taking it seriously are in for a really rude awakening.
Yeah.
If they haven't already, kind of figured out like what's going on is pretty serious.
It's
now, is it like, is it the plague from like, that wiped out 1/3 of Europe? No, we're not in that big of a crisis, but it's a, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But it's like finding ourselves in the deep end of this really big deal. Like, what can we do? And I think like what you're talking about with even kind of making headway on a first issue, do it. You need to. I need to see it. I need to see the first issue. I want to see it. And also,
cool story.
Yeah, and also
So.
concerns of it crossing over too. That might also just be like, it's relevant.
But the message was very pessimistic and cynical. That's the problem. I got to change that. Nobody needs that right now. We're experiencing it.
Yeah, agreed. Although it's interesting, like I was joking to a friend that I would have never, like, the one thing that's fascinating about reality is if I were writing a dystopian literature book, I would have never predicted the toilet paper thing. Like, you just can't make that up. And if you did, people would just be like, "Oh, really? Come on, I don't believe that."
Ridiculous.
I
still can't find toilet paper here, by the way. So.
Oh, here too. Yeah.
That'll be here. Oh, there you go. There's a way we could adapt all of our comics. We can print on very, very fine paper, and that could be part of the selling point. You read it on the John, and then you just pull the pages as you go.
I don't know who posted this, but there was something like they were talking about all these 90s comics that they have. If it comes down to it, that's all they're worth.
Young Blood number 10 or whatever.
That's perfect.
Yeah. No, I could see that. What was the other one? Bloodshot.
Yeah, well, he's got a movie now. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Vin Diesel.
Diesel.
I had to dig into my long boxes. I was perusing them and stuff, and I was like, I gotta sell some of these comics, but there's some that I just don't want to sell. Like, I'm not even a big Spawn fan anymore, but when I was a kid, and I was obsessed with Spawn.
Oh yeah. Like,
my dad went out of his way to find a copy of Spawn #1 signed by Todd McFarlane. Nice. It's like sealed. It's a first edition. It's like in the whole thing with the certificate and stuff.
Cool.
And I'm like, I can't bring myself to sell it, even though I'm not a big fan of Spawn. I'm just like, it's got some sentimental. Yeah. Also, Spawn introduced me to Cerebrus and Dave Sims, so I'm like,
yeah,
I can't
actually
knock
just
it
went
too
back
much.
through my Spawn collection not too long ago. I started reading.
Does it hold up?
It's fun. It's fun. I don't want to say anything critical about the writing, but it's fun. It's not.
I'm curious.
Deep.
I gotta dig through them.
I enjoyed it so much. I'll be honest. I got the. I can't see them here. I thought they were right here, but I went and bought the trades so that I could fill in some of the issues that I didn't have. So I'm enjoying it. I'm definitely enjoying it. But if you're asking if it holds up for someone who hasn't read it, I don't know. But it's very nostalgic for me, and I'm enjoying it. There's some.
I was pretty obsessed. So I think I lasted till like issue. I almost got to like 100 and something, and then kind of fell out.
Oh wow, you went farther than I did for a while. I got up to like 50, and then I stopped for a while, and then I came back again. I was super into Capullo, so that kept me going for a while. But I was also like obsessed with McFarlane when I was a kid. So when I heard that he had stopped drawing the books, like my little brain was just like, oh, well, it's stupid now. But then years later, I'm like, oh, but Capullo, come on. Like, geez.
Yeah, I was one of those people that and I mean, I'm not going to lie. I did like McFarlane stuff, and I like Spawn. I mean, I was never a fan of like the Liefeld stuff, and I don't. Oh yeah. I don't begrudge anyone who likes Rob Liefeld, and as a person and as a businessman, I think he's brilliant. But he's cool. But I just never liked that. But I
was never a huge fan of his work.
Yeah. But I was into McFarlane and stuff, and but when he stopped illustrating and when Greg Capullo came on, I mean, right away I was like, no, I like this new guy. He's awesome. There was no like transition or anything, and that was. I mean, he's huge now, but at the time, I mean, I don't even know where he came from exactly. Is what he was doing previous to that. To me,
he was doing X-Force.
Yeah, to me, that was the first exposure I'd ever seen from him, and I dug it. So.
Yeah. I was just a weird nerd at that time, but which I still am. But it's like I had my like guys I was obsessed with, like that Sam Keith. To this day, I still think Sam Keith.
I just went back same time I was doing Spawn. I blasted through the whole Max series too.
Ooh, I have every issue of the Max.
Yeah, me too.
Even Friends of Max, the whole spinoff and stuff.
I think I do. Is that the one where there's like the Thomas the Tank Engine looking cover?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to that. So there's a whole series called Friends of Max that literally has nothing to do with the Max, except that it's
I don't have.
So it's like indie slice of life comics, that are like really heavy, but they're really good. Anyhow, yeah. So nerdy, fun stuff. But yeah, like I had a few people that I was like really, really massively obsessed with at that time, especially in Image,
Oh yeah.
Eric Larson is one of those guys who like slipped by my radar till later, and then I was like, oh, he's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to catch up on some Eric Larson stuff. Actually, I agree. It's funny how like not necessarily that your tastes change, even though they do, but you kind of look at things in a different way. Or you start to fill in some of the blanks you missed when you were growing up, and been doing that a lot actually.
He's kind of got a Jack Kirby energy to his stuff, I think.
Whoa, what is that?
So, all right. So like any other tips or ideas on like kind of how you plan to kind of swim through this craziness?
Well, I mean, I've kind of talked about what I'm doing, but I mean, it's like Mike had talked about how he kind of had this foresight where he thought things were going to go and everything. I started noticing I had a little bit of that too, with just because I was, when I first discovered this whole, the Amazon merch and the KDP Amazon books and stuff like that, I started going into that. But then, I started to realize that, I don't think people are going to be buying T-shirts if they can't go out and show them off. And then, and Mike's wearing one of my T-shirts now, but you can't get that right now because they shut the program down. I mean, I guess you could get it through my other, if it's temporary, I guess, I'm sure they'll bring it back, but it's not essential. And, like I said, I don't think people were buying it. So they shut that down. And I had already kind of pivoted, knowing that I would go back to that, and I will when they open it back up. But I'm just like, at first I was like, yeah, I don't think that's the best way to spend my time, because I think they may shut it down. And if I'm designing stuff for like Easter designs or Cinco de Mayo, stuff like that, that's in danger of, you could design this stuff and they shut it down, and like, well, what do I do with these designs other than wait till maybe next year?
Yeah.
So I kind of stopped doing that, and then I started focusing on the books. And then I was like, well, it's like right now there's a huge, I mean, it's like Frank in the comments was talking about how he ordered some of the books and it's going to be close to a month before he gets them. Oh, wow. So, even though they haven't shut that down yet, it's still, some people may look at that and like, I don't want to order a book if it's going to take that long to get, even though I think people want that stuff. I mean, they want books and activities and things that they can do now since they're at home.
Yeah.
But then I kind of finished the books that I was working on. And then now I've kind of like, well, I think the only thing that's probably not in danger of going away, other than if just people don't have the money to buy this stuff, is the digital product. So now, I'm all in on the digital stuff. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. So I think it's just a matter of, thinking where we are and what's going to sell right now in these times, what's the best, what's the best use of your time if you're going to invest time into what I'm doing with making products, because, my client work pretty much dried up. I had one of my clients says he wants to get back into doing everything, but that'll be great if it happens, but I'm not going to count on it because I've had checks and things bounce and so I gotta make sure if he does have me do work and I deposit the check and I got to wait for it to clear. If that happens, that's great, but I'm not counting on it. So, but, with the stuff I'm doing myself, I was going to say I only have myself to blame if I don't, I'm not really relying on anyone else, but I am relying on the fact that there's an economy that can support, people that have jobs so they can, buy this stuff. So I don't know. But anyway, so the digital products, that's pretty much for me, that's what I'm going into, just because it seems like it's the safest bet for me now, and nothing's truly safe, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, safety is an illusion anyway. But I mean, but I do get what you're saying about like kind of going with like the most viable option in the sense of like looking at the landscape as it is.
Yeah.
What's the most productive thing I can do that's going to further my art career, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like even with, you know, when I took that big dip, it's like the next biggest thing I could work on. I had this book. And I just happened to finish it like right before all this madness. So it's like working on building a pitch and kind of working on that like made sense, because what else was I going to do, you know?
Right.
And so I think, yeah, I mean, for me, I relate to that a lot too, Scott. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, very similar to what you just said too, is like, for me, the thing that makes the most sense is keep working on my book. I've spent, you know, this whole year getting the script together and getting it ready to come out. There's no good reason that it shouldn't come out. I've just adapted some, you know, a few key things. I knocked off a few issues, for example. So instead of 10, I'm going to do 7 now. Just trying to make it more manageable, and so that I could get it out in a more timely fashion, and also so that I could make issue 1 just that much more kind of into the story, so that hopefully it does better and people want issue 2 more. And again, you know, just like you were saying, Scott, like probably relying mostly on digital. And because of that, maybe I even approach kind of the presentation of the book in a different way, so that it leaves that window open for if and when printers do get up and running again, and I can make a printed version, that I could sell that printed version still. So maybe my digital version is black and white or flat color or something that's a little different, so that I can then have a new thing for future Mike to do to spice it up and make it worth, you know, owning a physical copy.
Love it.
You know, and then other than that, you know, if absolutely necessary, yeah, I'll probably start taking on some gigs too to replenish what I've lost in my savings because of this. And you know, other than that, it's like, I don't know. I think in general, it's sort of reframed my outlook on the kind of stories I want to tell. Like I was saying, I want to put a more positive spin on this. I made a huge post on Facebook today, kind of going into that. You talk about the Great Depression in America and World War II. That's when Superman was invented. That's when Batman was invented. Wonder Woman. Like now's the time for positivity. Now's the time for hero stories, things that are going to lift people up. This is just my personal take. I'm not putting this on anybody, but for me personally, I tend to want to tell very cynical stories, and I want to pull back from that. I want to give people a light in their world. I don't want them to be, you know, turning.
You don't want to be like
themselves.
the Steinbeck, like dropping Grace's wrath right after the Depression.
I'm not trying to do that. No, but I'm also
good.
I mean, it's
necessary.
I think I think those stories are still necessary, you know, but for me personally, I feel I can do my best if I'm leaning more on my skill with like humor and stuff like that. I think I do pretty well with more upbeat kind of stuff anyway. So, you know, if I could do that for people, awesome. You know,
it's a good point. And like, it's not off historically either. I mean, it's like, you know, if you look at entertainment around that era too, it's like, you know, Great Depression, it's like Fred Astaire and like all these films that were showing like wealth and fun and like
super upbeat.
Yeah.
You know?
So,
super
I mean,
upbeat.
yeah, completely.
And it was not a great time.
No. Yeah. I love it.
Also, you know, you had brought up kind of continuing the idea of focusing more on digital as far as prints, because at one point, because one of the, and I haven't been, I got a few like physical product sales, but recently, but one of the things that's usually sold pretty well at shows and on you know, my store, as far as like the mad science stuff, are like warning signs and things like that. And I've got some that are like, you know, biohazard and all this
nice.
stuff like that. But I was thinking, you know, I could have, and I don't know if this is in poor taste, or I don't think I wouldn't do it in poor taste, but it might come across the wrong way. But just like, because a lot of stuff is, I mean, the people that have essential jobs are people that are in like the medical field and stuff like that. And it's, so I had a lot of that kind of stuff. But I was thinking even like some kind of clever kind of wash your hands signs or something like that. But then I was like, well, yeah, but then, I don't want to have to ship that out. And I don't know if it would do as good digitally. So I just decided not to do it, even though, it could sell, but I'm trying to avoid as many trips to the post office as I can. So, but yeah,
that's important stuff to think about too. Like the fact that maybe you can't print something for a while, like, that affects the kind of thing that you're going to try to make,
Right.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a definite shift in things, and it's weird because for me, it's been like watching the whole thing in slow motion, because like where I work, we felt the hit like when the factories first shut down in China. And it's like instantly we saw the whole economic impact of it. And it was like watching it kind of slow motion, where I'd talk about it to people and they're like, what, that thing? And you're like, no, it's kind of a big problem. Like it's like crippled that entire economy. And people are like, wow, whatever. And now that it's here, it's like everyone knows what it is. But it's been interesting because I've been watching the whole thing, like from the kind of first impact, where it's like, oh, like it's been serious since then. So I totally get what you're talking about with like the foresight thing, where I've been like kind of looking around and being like, are you guys like worried about? I even remember texting a few friends who were working places and being like, is this impacting you guys? And like, at this point, it's like if you texted a friend going, hey, is this COVID thing like impacting your livelihood? Like everyone would be like, yes. Like, but at that time, people were like, what, that thing? The thing in China? What are you talking about? So it's been an interesting kind of challenging, like very stressful scenario. But I do think it is possible for all of us to kind of make decisions in a way where if this clears, we've set ourselves up to be in the best position. Meaning like, like if this clears and all we felt was anxiety and then it clears, it's like you're left with weeks of anxiety. But if this clears and you got like a chapter of your book done, or like, you got your digital products built and out there in the market, even if they're not selling, they're out there. It's like, I think, Scott, you said this last week, and I think we'll reiterate it this week, but I think it's like we want to set ourselves up where we're in a scenario where when things come back, we have things to present in that economy. If the economy is dead, then it's dead. But if it rises up again and we have nothing to offer in that scenario, it's like there is time now to do it. It doesn't mean it's easy to do, and it doesn't mean like, woohoo, we should be all happy. It's like, I don't want to be that. I always had this joke about the over optimist, who's like, when the two towers fall, goes, well, on the plus side, there's real estate, open now. It's like there's timing, and there's definitely like a point where being optimistic is kind of silly. But at the same time, when we're going through the thick of it, I think it's important for us to try to see the light at the end of the tunnel and be like,
it is.
Okay, when I'm out of that tunnel, like, what am I going to have in my hands? Am I going to have a book? Am I going to have some art? Or am I going to just have like nothing? I don't know.
I like listening to or seeking out stories of people that, like with the last recession, that were able to, they were kind of like, well, what else am I going to do? I'm going to work on this. And they were, and that's, you hear these stories about that's when their business started off. And, so, I mean,
my wife actually, the company that she works for, awesome story here. And I think there's a big takeaway from it. She works for a farm to table restaurant. So they have a farm. It's in town. It's like 15 minutes from here. They grow, they raise their own livestock and grow all their own stuff, but they've invested heavily over the last few years into actually acquiring property in the city to make these restaurants. So they have their big flagship restaurant, and then above it, there's like another kind of hip, trendy restaurant. They got another one down the street, all these different places that all of a sudden cannot operate. They have to shut down. But what they did was they called an emergency meeting with all the managers. Luckily, my wife is one of them, so she was in on that meeting. And they came up with a new game plan to ensure that they would be essential, that they could stay open. So they restructured their whole business literally in one meeting. So now instead of being restaurant chain, they are doing farm to table, like family meals. So they're giving people everything that they need to either make the meal themselves or prepare like a nice home cooked meal at home for people that don't want to cook, can't cook, etc. And so they're doing all this stuff, and it's blowing up to the point where they decided a couple days ago that if things went back to normal and they kept doing this, they wouldn't be able to keep up. They would have to open a whole other kitchen to keep up with this. So for them, I think for all of us, not that it's easy, but that's the kind of solution you want to try to look for, is something that in this time, if this never goes back to normal, is good enough, and it's going to get you by, and it's going to replace what things used to be. But that if that light switched back on and things did get back to normal, you'd have to scramble to get your shit in order, because now your business is exploding, you know?
Yep.
And that's, it's very possible. It's very possible.
Yeah, I've heard,
but
yeah, I heard a couple other stories, and I don't know if this one was true. I thought I heard that Panera Bread, or one of these bread companies that is essentially like a restaurant, there, because they can't have people coming in, that they're changing, at least temporarily, their business model to be more like a grocery store, where you can go in, you know. So, and then I heard of I forgot the name, I forgot the restaurant. I don't know if we have them here or not, but some restaurant chain, what they did was they were, I guess they painted the like walls outside their restaurant white, and they were projecting movies, and so have like a drive-in where people were going and they could park and watch movies. And then, you know, just like a movie theaters don't make their money off the movies, they make their money off concessions. So they would, you know, bring the food out to the cars and stuff. So they, you know, there are, you know, sometimes there's, you know, sometimes there's opportunity if you look for it. You know, you may have to just rethink things, you know. But it's those kind of stories that I really like. But it's like people just, you know, using their ingenuity, and like you said, one meeting, they sat down and they brainstormed, and they figured a solution, and it's working. So
and they got it working like the next day. It's crazy. And so that meant they didn't have to lay off as many people. And I mean, they still had to, because there's so many, you know, servers but they tried to reconfigure things. So, you know, now certain servers are now delivery drivers and things like that. So, but anything you could think of. And a lot of that is kind of what we've been talking about today with, you know, switching to digital or changing up what you're doing a little bit. All that still applies if things go back to normal. You can still keep doing that and whatever you were doing before. So,
yeah. I think just a good exercise would be to kind of like look up the amount of great American literature that was created during the Great Depression, and great art that was created during the Great Depression, and realize like that's us. Like we're literally in a weird giant world crisis, and imagine the cool art we can be making. And it's not going to be easy to make the art. It never is. So that's the catch, is like we could actually be that next.
But the delivery mechanism is so much easier than back in the Great Depression. I mean, that's why, I mean, you've seen all these, if you hit a chord with somebody on a clever meme or something like that, I mean, it could take off, and, you know, maybe put your URL or something, so when it does get shared around or something, but, you know.
So, all right. Cool. So like we've been going for a bit. I kind of want to wrap it at some point. And I think that might be a kind of a good positive note to kind of end it on. Is there anything we didn't hit on that you guys wanted to kind of touch on regarding the topic and stuff? Anything?
If you're not feeling like you're there yet to take action, don't worry about that either. Go play a video game, stare at a wall, whatever it is that you feel is helping. Do that. And it'll pass. It's grief. Look up grief and check that out. We're all going through the stages in some way or another.
Yeah. And sometimes just getting up is good. Just getting out of bed is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly.
For me, this kind of stuff that we're doing right now, I mean, this is what's helpful to me, because I know it reaffirms that I'm not in this alone, that everyone's in this together.
Yeah.
And because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and some people, they've pre-recorded their podcasts, so they're releasing them, and they're talking about stuff that is not it's
not relevant at all.
Like, you can tell this was done before then, and it's kind of hard for me to listen to that stuff. Like, I want to listen to people, that, like, we're talking about these interesting solutions to problems and stuff that are in the world we're living in right now. So I'm seeking that stuff out, and and like I said, some of the podcasts I listen to are just pre-recorded or whatever, or maybe they're not touching on the stuff. But this is the kind of stuff. I mean, I want to take in content that's of what other people are doing right now, other solutions people are having, or how people are dealing with this. Because, like I said, it just makes me feel like I'm not alone, and also I think it's helpful to socialize as much as we can, even if it's through the internet, because that's all we have. And I've said, I don't know if it was on Art Shack or here, but one of the things that I've noticed so much is that when I am out, jogging or walking my dog, and keeping social distancing, but you pass people and stuff, and more than ever, I've always, when I used to walk my dog or jog, if you smile at somebody or say hey or hello or something, a lot of times they wouldn't even respond. But now, I mean, I don't think a single person has not responded or voluntarily, had a greeting or something like this. Yeah. So I think if there is a silver lining to this, I think when people come out, they're going to appreciate other people a lot more. Because sometimes you don't realize what you're that you're missing until you don't have it anymore. So,
and I think that's true of our time too. It's like, weirdly enough, I do remember this. Like, my grandfather used to talk about the era of the Great Depression with fondness, because he had a lot of really good family memories from then, because people were really required to kind of be in a lot of people in small houses, and there's a lot of people from that era that talk of that era in a way where they miss it. And so that's something I think while we're going through it, don't forget the stuff you might miss. This is a really good time for people in relationships to learn how to work things out, because you're literally stuck in the same room for a very long time. It's a good time to spend time with your kids. It's just I think it's a really, and like I said, with the art thing, I really do think, use this stuff as fuel, man. But whether it's to make encouraging stuff, whether it's to document what's happening, what a fascinating story, right? This whole thing is wacky.
I think this is going to fundamentally change anyone that's right here, that's living through this now. Like, you hear the stories, you go back to the Great Depression, on how, that there were a lot of people that lived through that are a lot more frugal and real careful with their money and things like that, because they've lived through that, and it carries on. So I think through the rest of our lifetime, anyone that's in it, unless they're way too young to really, get it or whatever, I think this is going to change all of us moving forward. I think people are going to be a lot more smart with their money, or what
And for us as artists, we have a leg up in that regard, because we're used to living pretty tight. So being oh, I got to kind of tighten the belts. It's oh, okay, I know how to do that. I'm not going to movies anyway.
Dude, we started growing our own onions in little aluminum cans.
Really?
Yeah.
jealous.
You
That
know,
sounds
how you
awesome.
see those videos pop up sometimes where they fast forward through all the different ways you can regrow your vegetables and stuff. We've got like a whole bay window full of
Oh, cool.
sprouts of all
Cool.
kinds of stuff. It smells weird in here, but you know, it'll be good. It smells like
That's
onions and peppers and stuff. Yeah.
Awesome.
So pinching pennies. We'll still have to buy them now, but maybe in a month we won't have to buy one onion. So
Awesome. That's cool though. I love
it is cool. It's fun. That's another thing to do too. You know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we made like there's those powder kits of like where you mix different powders and make like a cheeseburger and fries and stuff.
What?
Yeah,
That
you got to
sounds
look it up
crazy.
on YouTube. And
Okay.
actually, I filmed it, so I will be probably making a YouTube video of it. But,
All right.
Was that
like,
the little food that you were showing?
mhm.
Or was that something
Yeah.
else?
Oh.
Yeah, it was the little food. So
Huh.
it's literally just packets of powder in molds,
Uh-huh.
and you just kind of
Oh,
mix
that was
water
awesome.
and then microwave
I
different
didn't
things.
realize you made that. I thought that was something that you just buy in a little pack or something like that.
No, 100%. I mean, you buy the pack that's just the powder and the molds, and then you just pour in powder, mix it with. Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, you try to do what you can. Like I've been.
I mean, that wasn't to eat. I mean, that was just to amuse
Oh.
my time and myself. But I'm just saying it was awesome. And actually, what's weird is eating it was weird because it did taste like McDonald's cheeseburger.
Really weird.
Yeah,
It's so cool.
Yeah, I've been doing stuff on the iPad because I'm doing some Procreate brushes, and
cool.
so I'm like, and the weather's kind of nice, so I can't go out. You really can't do much outside, but I've been just going in my backyard, and there's a nice breeze out there, and I've been just working on my iPad in the backyard. So
nice.
it's like, it's a little. I mean, it's a little change of pace from being in here, and I always talk about how much I like having all my stuff here, but it is nice to kind of change and switch things up as much as you can. So you take, I guess you take it when you can get it. As far as there's not a whole lot of places you can go, but even moving to a different room and working somewhere else is helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike, do you want to comment on the Soylent Green, or should I?
I've heard of it too. I'm not sure if you should trust it.
Wait, are you talking about Soylent Green?
Soylent Green is people.
I still know that product that they put out called Soylent, and it was in green packaging. I'm like, was that intentional, or did you not see the movie? I mean,
and it was like a nutrition drink too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh
Man. All right. So with that, I think we should wrap. So let's tell everybody where to find us. So you're on my channel, so you know where to find me. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, and then go right over to sisypheancomplex.com.
Yeah.
Mike, where can everybody find your stuff?
At sisypheancomplex.com or spacecatcomics.com if you want some cool prints. But I don't have many of them.
Prints on the thumbnail. They're really good. They're great.
They were fun.
Especially if you like those properties, because it looked like they were mash. Were they all mashups, or?
For the most part, actually, yeah, they were all mashups. So here, I got them right here. Whoa.
Was one with Spawn and Batman? I saw that. Oh, yeah,
Batman Spawn, because that was awesome. I would love to see if they did that again. That would be sweet. This one, if you like Rick and Morty, here I'll block the text because it's got some swearing in it. But if you like Rick and Morty and Dragon Ball Z, if you just happen to be one of those people, there's that. And then actually, I don't have the other one because I sold these already. But I'm going to try and print these. It's just
that one's my favorite. I mean, I love the colors on that thing. That looks great.
This one was so fun.
Yeah.
I'd never seen the show either, but because of this print, I got super into it because I had to see what it was all about to know what to draw. It's a pretty cool show.
Yeah, LSP is amazing.
Yeah, I watched a few of them early on, but I don't think I have the channel that it's on or whatever. So
I think they might be free to watch online on Cartoon Network or something.
I'm
pretty sure that's where I found them.
Yeah.
They're like 10 minutes long too.
Excellent shows. Yeah. Cool. All right. So Scott, how does everybody kind of keep in touch with?
Are you going to me first?
Yeah.
Oh, you know,
no, we already did the rest.
Okay.
So where can everybody find your work, and then where can they keep in touch with this mad show that bounces from channel to channel?
Okay, so yeah, you can find me at circworks.com, or I think it's Circworks Art Labs on Patreon. Also, yeah, I mean, YouTube, I'm doing a series called Making Comics 101 on my YouTube channel, and if you want to learn how to make comics from start to finish, definitely check that out. Tomorrow I'll have another episode coming out, and yeah, like I'm just looking at all the messages come by. All right, so yeah, if you
could buy his shirt.
No, you can't. Well, you
but actually,
you can't. I think you can get it through like on my YouTube page. There's a little thing at the bottom, but off of Amazon, you can't buy it off of Amazon anymore. So.
Or you could get this one on eBay for $1 million.
He needs more of those potatoes and onions and stuff.
And tin cans.
Make it happen.
Yeah. So where was I? Yes. If you're new to this show, or if you're not sure how this works, we do it every week, usually on Thursdays around 9 Pacific. But that can all change if there's a scheduling conflict or something like that. And it also bounces back and forth between my channel and Josh's channel. It's on Josh's channel right now. Next week it'll be on my channel. But we realize that can be a little confusing. Plus, YouTube isn't always the best at letting people know when an episode's coming out. So the best thing to do is join our mailing list. We don't spam you or anything like that. There's a link in the description of this video. If you click on that, you join our mailing list. Usually about 30 minutes before we go live, we'll send out a newsletter with the link, and you can jump in that, and then you can join us live or in the chat or watch after the fact. So yeah.
Awesome.
After the fact, Jack.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Mike, again for joining us, and thanks
for having
everybody. And thanks to everybody in the chats who jumped in. It's a lively chat, so sorry if we didn't get to everybody, but really cool, makes the show better. And like this kind of community is, I think, honestly, like one of the reasons I've felt sane during this whole time is having this like kind of weekly hangout with my buddies. Like I get to do this every week, whether there's a pandemic or not, which is kind of awesome. So I encourage people like build that online community, the hundreds, all of that. Like really, we all got to rely on each other during this
honestly
time, so.
Yeah, that's if I could say one more thing before we go, is to just underline that I really needed to talk to some other creatives, and we do these hangouts and stuff sometimes, and that's exactly what I needed. That's what got me actually doing anything. And so if you everybody needs to talk to somebody now.
Yeah, I'm feeling good because I actually had 2 hangouts. I got this one, and earlier we did the Patreon one. So
nice.
So I've got I've got a pretty good fill today of talking to other creatives and stuff.
Sweet. Yeah, we had a little one going earlier today too. I was gonna do some drawing, but my wife, when she left, she was trying to encourage me to do something. She's like, do anything, pull out some sculpting stuff or whatever. And so I was like, all right, sure, I'll pull out some sculpting stuff. So,
and I saw your post, but you just started that today?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's coming along.
Awesome. That's gonna be cool. And like you mentioned in the post, it would be cool to have a figurines done. That's cool.
That would be cool. And I know how to do all that stuff already.
Yeah.
Learning anything else.
Yeah.
We'll see. Hopefully it turns out.
It's definitely gonna be cool.
Sweet. That looks amazing. All right. So thanks to everybody who joined us, and we will see you guys next week. So bye.
Goodbye. Wash your hands.